G'day legends, g'day superstars, round 11 tips, tipped out style coming your way, hosted by me, Chris Pepper from Lace Out Podcast. Rightio, Geelong versus the Doggies tomorrow, 7:30pm, GMHBA Stadium. From 2024 trade period, everybody has been strapping themselves in for this one. Bailey Smith versus his old club. We know he didn't go out on great terms, and there's been a lot of fire in the Doggies' belly since that particular day. Now, if you have a look fast forward until round 11, the Doggies have been playing sensational football, and Bailey Smith has rejuvenated his career down there at the Cattery. He's going to be a belter. I can't wait for this one. My only concern for the Doggies is GMHBA Stadium is a completely different kettle of fish when you have to play down there. Small wings, very particular in the way it handles. But I'm looking forward to Rory Lobb versus Jeremy Cameron. Tom Stewart on Norton. Will Richards go to Holmes, and will the Bont go to Smith? It is going to be a corker. I'm going Geelong by less than a goal. That's how tight I think this one is going to be. But I always say this sometimes, that there wouldn't be a surprise if the Doggies took this one out. That is just how good they are going. But I'm only putting this one down to the home ground of GMHBA Stadium. Rightio. Dream time at the G. Usually held on a Saturday night, but for the first time I can remember, it's going to be on a Friday night, 7:40pm at the MCG. Richmond, really good against North last week and stole defeat from the jaws of victory. And Essendon, we know how putrid they were against the Doggies last week as well. Now, putting these two teams together, and if this one was at Marvel, I would pick Essendon like that. They play that game really, really well. That ground really, really well, except for last week. And Richmond have been better than a lot of people would say. I just think that the class factor of Essendon is just a little bit more than North Melbourne. And I reckon it might be tight for maybe 2 quarters, maybe 2.5 quarters. But I think Essendon, just with their experience, will stretch it out. And I think that they will get the win. I don't think it'll be more than anything by maybe 3 or 4 goals. But I reckon Richmond will put up a really, really good fight. I just think that Essendon, there's just something about them. They'll be stinging from that performance that they put in last week against the Western Bulldogs. Like I said, it was absolutely putrid, and I think they will nail this one big time. Rightio, let's get into 12:35 Saturday afternoon. Carlton versus the GWS Giants at Marvel Stadium. GWS, what did they serve up last week against Fremantle? Nobody would have picked that. They thought that was going to be a guaranteed 4 points. And Carlton, well, they've been up and down like yo-yos throughout the 2025 season. And I actually think that they'll beat the GWS Giants. I think they're in a bit of a strange part at the moment, the Giants, when you expect them to be taking out wins and pushing towards that top 4 sort of spot. They're not able to do it. And Carlton, I know they're thinking of switching to the National Hockey League in the US because just like Carlton, they only play 3 periods of sport, not a full 4 quarters. But I reckon they'll be able to push this one this week, and I reckon this will be a goal in it at the most. It'll be a really, really tight one. And it's going to be a beautiful afternoon game at Marvel Stadium with the roof on. Couldn't ask for much more when you're heading into AFL football. And I think they're going to take it out. So Carlton supporters, get ready. Lygon Street is going to go bananas. 4:15pm, can't wait for this one. MCG, Hawks versus the Brisbane Lions. Brisbane was shocked by Melbourne last week, and as a Melbourne supporter, so was I. And Hawthorn, they're just doing what Hawthorn do on a regular basis at the moment. They win some, they lose some. I think that they can push Brisbane really, really hard this week. The Hawks love playing at the MCG. We know how special they are. They like the big spread of it. And the Brisbane Lions haven't been playing good football over the last number of weeks. They almost drew with North Melbourne. They lost to the D's. I would actually go as far back and say that they are going to win this week, Hawthorn, and they're going to beat the Brisbane Lions, and Brisbane are going to have a little bit of a mini slide. And mind you, I said they almost drew. They did draw. Hawthorn will win this one. They will win it by probably 2 or 3 goals at the most. It's going to be another tight contest. I'm seeing a lot of tight contests throughout round 11 this week, but I just think at their home ground, the bigger, wide expanses, I think the forward line's going to be running a little better. And I think just Brisbane are just not running on all cylinders at the moment. They're just going to find that they're going to get jumped again, and the Hawks will win. That's all I can really say about that game. But what about the 7:35 Australian Eastern Standard Time game? Marvel Stadium, North Melbourne versus Collingwood. These two teams have had some epic battles over the last couple of years, but this week won't be one of them. North did get the win against Richmond last week. Collingwood, really, really good against Adelaide. And I think Collingwood, with just too many strings to their bow, too much quality talent across. It's not the forwards and it's not the midfields. I just think their back line is working so well at the moment. They'll be able to stop anything that North Melbourne throws at them. And I just think that the nimbleness of the forward line for Collingwood, North aren't going to be able to stop that. I just think when you've got Elliott down there, if you've got Myercheck playing, if you've got Membry down there, if Schultz comes back, there's just got too many options. And then you've got Nick Dacos, Josh Dacos, these guys coming through the forward line as well too. It's just going to be too many options for North to be able to stop. And I think Collingwood could get a bit of a run here, make this a 5 or 6 goaler, and really just set them up in that first position even more heading into the back end of the season, but in the next couple of weeks, the bye period as well too. Rightio, last game of the weekend for Saturday is going to be Fremantle versus Yardapulti, otherwise known as Port Adelaide, 8:10 p.m. at Optus Stadium. Fremantle, you'd have to say that was almost the win of the weekend. Came pretty close to the Melbourne-Brisbane one as well. Sensational, and Port Adelaide just putrid once again. Oh my God, they have killed Kenny. Lots of talk about Kenny and the succession period. Will Josh Carr take over? Should he be doing it now? Why are they waiting so long? I don't know what's going on at Port Adelaide. Jamie the J-Dog Wallis, the co-host with the most, he even says that they need to pull the trigger right now. And Fremantle, this is the typical Fremantle game where they have a great win on the road, come back to their home deck, and they could potentially screw the pooch. I'm giving them hope, because if they can play like they did last week with pure intent around the ball and Shai Bolton getting some quality ball himself and making probably his best game for Fremantle this year, I will say they are at a massive chance, and I reckon they could win this by 4 or 5 goals as well too. So let's into the Sunday games. 3, Adelaide versus the West Coast Eagles, 1:10 p.m. at the Radelaide Oval. Adelaide, quite simply, will win this one. They'll do it quite easily. West Coast have been showing a lot more over the last number of weeks, and it's really good to see them a lot more competitive. Got their first win for the season, so congratulations to Andrew McWalter. But Stevie Nicks' guys will be fanging for this one. They'll be decimated by what they did last week against the Collingwood Football Club. They should have actually won that game, but just due bad kicking. We know what happened to Rankin in that last quarter. A couple of set shots that didn't go to plan, but they'll win this one. I could probably see this being about a 7 or 8 goaler. Could stretch out if the forwards down there get a real handle on it, but I just think that let's just make it maybe an 8-6, so maybe 6 to, I won't say 6, 8 to 10 goaler. And then that'll just give them that percentage moving into the next couple of weeks. All right, Melbourne versus the Sydney Swans, 3:20 p.m. at the MCG. Melbourne, really, really good last week against Brisbane. I've spoken about that already. Don't forget what Sydney did last week as well. Great win against Carlton. Isaac Heaney and Warner getting back into it. And I reckon this is going to be a really good game. Melbourne have shown a cracking lot of form over the last 5 weeks. They'll be buoyant. They'll be pumped full of confidence after what they served up and what they did against a formidable Brisbane team last week. And you've got to remember, Sydney are only 2 positions above them. They've still got a lot of players out, and they've also dropped a couple with Amadi not going to be in there. And I think McCartan's not going to be there as well there through injury, or McInerney, one of the two, not going to be there as well too. So that's going to put more pressure on their forwards and probably more pressure on Isaac Heaney and wanting to be able to get those goals as well. So I'm going with the D's by no more than 3 goals. I reckon they can really set their season if they can get the 5 and 6 heading into St Kilda next week, potentially 6 and 6 heading into Queen's Birthday. Their season is back on track. And Sydney, I'm just not convinced by them. They're going to need more than 2 players. If you shut Warner down, if you shut Heaney down, you're pretty much going to be 95% of the way to beating Sydney. All right, last game of the weekend, graveyard shift. This game is a little bit of a sleeper, I think, as well, too. We know what St Kilda do at Marvel. They love that fast deck, and we know that Gold Coast have had their troubles on the road recently. They're playing really, really good football. We've seen them come down to Melbourne with games that they should win and not go ahead and do so. Is this one of those weeks? Well, my head says no. I think Gold Coast could win this. But why have I got a bit of a sneaking suspicion down here in my loins, that St Kilda potentially are going to pinch this one? It will be a massive upset that I think a lot of people won't pick. But could you be surprised? Because that's the type of football that St Kilda are playing this year. When you think they're going to win, they don't. And when you think they haven't got a chance, they come along and do something special. So I think that they are a massive chance to beat the Suns. I'm even going as far as saying they will by 3 points. 3 points to the St Kilda Football Club will beat the Suns. It's not going to derail the Suns' season, far from it, but it will be just those little questions of what happens when they travel. Are they able to sustain the pressure, not just within internally, but with the outer public putting it back on them? Are they going on school trips again and not learning from their mistakes? We'll see this week. If they win this one, then lock them in for finals, no doubt about it. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There are my tips for a massive round 11 of AFL football. Make sure you join myself and Jamie the J-Dog Wallis live Monday nights on our Facebook channel and also this beautiful YouTube channel. And if you can do me a favor, 85% of the people who watched my video last week weren't subscribers. So if you could just hit that subscribe button, give us a like. It would mean a lot to us. It means we can get some more quality content built for you because it's how you want it. Lace out and your tips tipped out. Have a great weekend. Hope your team wins.